What's up guys, today I wanted to bring you a PC build video basically on a PC that's really good for its price to performance ratio. A lot of the times on YouTube you see YouTubers pairing up unbelievable graphics cards with really low end CPUs, but for this build I really tried to get no bottlenecking. I really tried to make a system which is even on both sides, being the graphics card and the CPU. So let's get started. Oh, and by the way guys, the giveaway is going to be at the end of the video, so stay tuned. So for the motherboard I went with an MSI H81 ME33. This board supports up to 8 GB of RAM, the latest Intel CPUs, supports also CPU and GPU overclocking, and is also really durable. It does everything we needed to, and we're gonna skimp out on this one so that we can spend most of our money on the CPU and GPU. So for the RAM, I went with 8 GB of Crucial Ballistic Sports RAM. It's perfect for everything we need to do. 8 GB has really become the standard for the industry if you want to play a game on high to ultra settings. This RAM is also clocked at 1600 MHz, which is also the standard, just like 8 GB. It's also low profile, which is really important. I'll talk about that later in the video because it has something to do with the CPU. Overall, this is what I consider to be the perfect 8 GB RAM set. For the case, I went with a standard Rosewell FBM01. This case is micro ATX, which supports our motherboard. Other than that, it has space for two 3.5-inch hard drives, which is perfect for later on if you want to do some kind of RAID setup. Our motherboard does support RAID. It's the #1 best-selling case on Amazon. It's really sturdy. It's a trusted brand like Rosewell, and you really can't go wrong with this case. You can pick another case if you guys feel like it. Cases really don't matter as much as the other components in the system, but I really would recommend this case overall. So for the power supply, I went with an EVGA 500 watt 80 plus certified power supply. Now 500 watts is more than enough for our whole system. You know, our graphics card doesn't need that much power, and since our CPU is a Haswell CPU, they have this architecture that draws in as less power as possible, so it's overall good enough. As well as that, it is 80 plus certified, which means that it's super efficient in the way that it delivers power to your whole system. Other than that, this is the #1 best-selling power supply on Amazon, which can give you an idea of how high quality and how good a power supply it is. It's non-modular, which means that you're going to have to do some cable management, but since our case is good, we can do that. So overall, this is the perfect power supply. So for the hard drive, I went with a 500 GB Seagate Barracuda. Now hear me out guys, 500 GB may not be enough to you, but it is initially. What I mean when I say initially is that, you know, when you first buy your PC, you're gonna spend so much money on buying the parts and not on buying games. So eventually when you already have built the PC, you're not gonna have that much money left over to buy a bunch of games. And even if you do, the most popular games on PC, like, I don't know, CSGO, League of Legends, Smite, these are only games that are about 5 GB in space. Even Crisis 3 is about 13 or 10 GB in space, so you really don't need to worry about video games taking up that much space. As long as you keep it to a normal amount of games in your computer. You don't want to fill your computer with games, but you know, keep a good amount of games which are fun to play, then you really don't need to worry. And eventually you'll be able to upgrade and buy another 1 TB or SSD to put Windows on, and you'll be able to put it in RAID setup, since our motherboard does support that, so it will be really fast and ensure that you get the best performance. But initially, really guys, 500 GB is more than enough. Also, the Xbox One and PS4 have that much space, so you're really not, you know, making any, you know, sacrifices here. Plus, this hard drive has 7200 RPM, which is the fastest any kind of magnetic disk hard drive can go, which will also ensure some really good speed. So for the CPU, I went with an Intel Core i5-4460. This is an Intel Haswell processor, meaning it's part of the 4th generation of CPUs. Other than that, it's clocked at 3.4 GHz and is a quad-core CPU. This is excellent for when gaming and provides more than enough performance. This is my own personal CPU, and it's fantastic. It's really good and provides me with great performance. The 4 cores ensures that there's great multi-threaded performance, which games are really thriving on these days, especially with the CPUs of the Xbox One and PS4 being octa-core. But don't worry about that. This is basically the Intel equivalent of AMD's FX 8350, which is a very popular CPU as well. And I just can guarantee you guys that this is a fantastic CPU and you should buy it. So for the graphics card, I decided to go with MSI's R9 270X Twin Frozer Gaming Edition. This card is fantastic. It has 2GB of GDDR5 RAM, which is perfect for 1080p gaming. 1080p has really become the standard resolution for most games this generation, especially with games like Battlefield 4 and Call of Duty Advanced Warfare and all these new games coming out. A lot of people are demanding them at a 1080p 60fps resolution. So of course on the RAM side you're covered. Other than that, this card has MSI's Twin Frozer cooling, which basically means that it's going to be super silent and it's going to give you great overclocking at great temperatures. You can really get a lot more performance out of the box with this card if you overclock it. I'm gonna guess around 5 to 10 extra frames per second. I can guarantee you frames per second of about a minimum of 50 frames per second on Battlefield 4 on Ultra and 60 frames per second on Ultra settings on Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. So that's been it for this PC build, guys, and stay tuned for the Evolve Closed Beta giveaway. So what you guys need to do on the Evolve Closed Beta giveaway is follow me on Twitter and subscribe to me on YouTube, and basically comment in the comment section below what your Twitter username is. I'll pick 3 random comments, and then those 3 random comments will get a private message on Twitter with the code attached, and they'll be able to get access to the closed beta. Other than that, this giveaway is actually going to end in 24 hours because the beta is up for a limited amount of time only. So you guys know what to do. I'll see you guys in the next video.